All right, thanks for tuning in to another edition of the OFN meeting room as we talk Houston Texans football once again. And talking Houston Texans football, that means we are going to welcome in Mark Lane, the managing editor for the Texans Wire at USA Today. Mark, good talking to you again.
Hey, Greg, thanks for having me. It's
You,
nice to be in the meeting room.
hey, you got it. And next time you go into this room, my friend, I want you to be shaved and I want you to make sure that that mop of yours is like my hair because I had hair below my chin last Thursday, and I just had like five haircuts in one on Friday. So I'm like really clean shaven now. So you have to look like this next time we talk.
Got it, got it. Well, yeah, with everything, with the restrictions lifting, that should be manageable.
Yes, I hope we all hope so. Especially, man, you're in Arkansas, which isn't that? How does Arkansas relate to Texas when it comes to? Everybody talks about Texas, the big bad Longhorns, the big bad Texans. So, are you big and bad in Arkansas too?
Used to be.
Oh,
Um, yeah, with the University of Arkansas, the football program really fell off a cliff after Bobby Petrino got fired.
yeah, that was a long time
And
ago.
yeah, and they brought in Brett Bielema, who's now the defensive line coach with the New York Giants. But I don't want to get off talking about it.
That's okay.
What's happened to Arkansas Razorbacks football? It's one of the greatest shames in Southwest sport, college sports.
Well,
What's
then,
happened to the
what about
program?
what about the coach? What do you think about the new direction?
He's in his late 50s, and now he's a head coach for the first time.
Yeah, I agree.
It's dubious, but he does come from a background. He was with Georgia, and they're winners.
Yeah.
I think that some good things could happen, but there's just a lot of rotten planks on the deck that need to be replaced before I think you can confidently go out there.
Yeah.
And we'll just see what happens. The Chad Morris hire, he was in over his head. It was total Peter principle, and that set the program back. It really did.
Well, we'll
So
have to talk Arkansas football as we get closer to whenever they decide to start
exactly,
college the season this year.
exactly. Let's talk about something a little less, getting me fired up like that. Maybe the Texans' 5 draft picks that
Yeah,
they have.
I've had some
That's their
shows
lowest.
recently.
It's their lowest draft class in franchise history.
Wow. All right. Well, I know we won't have a half-hour show, that's for sure. I've had these long shows with like the Vikings, and I even just I mean, whether the combination of free agents and draft picks, 10, 12, 15, we've got 5 picks and got a couple of free agent signings, but nobody that really jumps out. So, such is life to be a Texans fan during this offseason, which has continued to be, I guess, maybe saying it nicely, be a downer. But as we talked about when we did the draft preview, things may not be as bad as they seem. But the draft pick situation got started with round 2, 40th pick overall, defensive tackle Ross Blacklock from TCU. And our lads believes that Blacklock has upside. Actually, he's an upside-based pick with potential of being a top-tier interior pass rusher. So, what do you think about Blacklock and what he brings to the Houston Texans front? And I'm sorry I said Dallas.
Yeah, yeah, but Blacklock, I think that he can grow into being a replacement for DJ Reader, who left in
Yes.
free agency for the Cincinnati Bengals. What I've heard is that he's going to play 2 technique and 0 technique as a defensive tackle. So, he's not exactly going to replace. No, wait a second. That's DJ who did that. What Blacklock is going to be able to do is also play outside at defensive end a little bit. So he provides that versatility. But I'm talking about in terms of just the talent, the quality. When you invest a high level second round pick
Yeah.
at defensive line, you're certainly upgrading it and tackle. I think that he'll be a contributor immediately. They'll be looking at Timmy Jernigan still and Brandon Dunn and Vanderdoes to go ahead and really take the bulk of the load at defensive tackle. But I think there will be a place for Blacklock to contribute in Anthony Weaver's defense.
Well, like we talked about in the draft preview, and obviously Reeder leaving was a big part of it. That doesn't always mean that that's going to be the position that the team uses in the draft as a replacement, but that could very well be the case. So, but Blacklock, his interior pass rushing ability, I mean, he's got excellent size and burst for the position. So he's a guy. And remember, we were wondering, where is the Houston's pass rush? Where is it coming from? If it's just J.J. Watt, I mean, there's got to be some other players. And we went over the list of young linebackers on the team. But this is the day and age in the NFL where that interior pass rush ability is just as important, especially against the older, more immobile quarterbacks.
Yeah, because you can collapse the pocket and you can get in their face, and Blacklock. I think that over time he'll have the ability to provide that for the Texans, and that's really, to see the pass rush finish with just 31 sacks. And I know Watt was injured for 8 games, but that's just uncharacteristic because in the 2010s, the Texans defense, it was kind of like, especially the pass rush was the face of the franchise.
Yeah.
And for it to just not be formidable, I think Whitney Merciless finished with 7.5 sacks, and that led the team.
Yeah.
Are you
Not
kidding?
Good. No.
Yeah, so that was very problematic. And having an interior pass rush with Blacklock should be able to help that.
And then go along with the next pick, Jonathan Grenard out of Florida, a 4-year player at Louisville, a grad transfer with Florida. And it's very rare that you see a player go from a team like Louisville, then he goes up in talent and conference to the SEC and actually has his best year. That's he blows up, first team All SEC. What did he have? I think he led the league with 15.5 tackles for loss and 9.5 sacks. So he's already going to bring that presence to the team. There's still some question about whether or not he has enough. He's definitely has some durability issues. He needs to be stronger. Definitely that'll help him in the run game. But even just if the first year or two, as he develops hopefully into a more complete player, he should be able to bring some pass rush presence to that position.
Yeah, exactly. He's coming in to be a complement. He's not coming in to carry the pass rushing load, because you still have, J.J. Watt. You still have Whitney Merciless. So they're going to be the top 2 guys that teams are going to key in on. And Grenard, all he has to do is he just has to do his job, show up. It's like with Charles Omenihu last season. They took him in the 5th round, and he was considered a steal for the 2019 draft. And he showed up and he had 2 sacks and 2 forced fumbles. And I think he had the, game sealing sack against Kansas City in week 6. So all Grenard has to do is just what Anthony Weaver wants. Just grow, and then the hope is that he would take over for Whitney Merciless, who's going to be 30 years old. So, he's entering his 30s, and if you could have Grenard take over, and then he's the dominant outside linebacker, then that really helps the defense transition while still keeping that dominant pass rushing ability that built their reputation on. And another thing about Grenard is he doesn't, like I said, even as a complimentary piece, he doesn't even have to be the man, because they'll have other complimentary pieces in Jacob Martin, who they got from Seattle last season. Brennan Scarlett, who's a very dependable veteran, and also Duke Ejiofor, who's coming back from an Achilles tear that from last offseason. So Grenard, all he has to do is just show up, and he may get a sack or two for the season total, but as long as he grows and develops, that's really all he needs to do in year one.
Well, that pretty much does it already for the guys that you would expect to be contributing at a good part of the season for this team if all goes well, because the next 3 picks, or the last 3 picks, you got the 2 4th rounders, you got Charlie Heck, who won't be looked on to play unless injuries happen. We talked about the offensive line getting better, but this is a guy that could be a valuable kind of swing tackle because he's got experience both on the right side and on the left side.
Yeah, and his first challenge is going to have to be beating out Roderick Johnson, who they brought back on a 1-year deal. Heck is going to have to beat him out to be that swing tackle, because Johnson, he played right tackle last season, even though he split time with Chris Clark after Titus Howard went out. But still, I mean, that's the guy that he'll have to challenge. Heck, he comes from a lineage of offensive linemen. His dad, Andy Heck, offensive line coach, was Super Bowl champion Kansas City Chiefs, and then he had a 12-year career as an offensive lineman in the 90s. So Heck, so out of everybody, Heck is the guy that knows what is demanded of an NFL offensive lineman. The question is does he have the talent, or is his name and really helped him get all the opportunities and so forth? We'll have to see.
Well, I mean, we talked about how this team went into the draft, really into the offseason, spent 3 first-round picks and 2 second-round picks to bolster the offensive line, beginning with Laramie Tunsil. So if Heck works out as a swing tackle, then you can see that they're building something nice at this offensive line, which is going to be very important, especially since most of these guys are young, just like their quarterback.
Yeah, and wishful thinking. But if Heck does really well, you could actually put him at right tackle and then kick Titus Howard inside at guard.
Okay, well.
And then that helps you upgrade from Zach Fulton.
That's right.
But that's very wishful thinking. I don't think Heck is going to be and really, okay, so it's a 5-man draft class, and this is kind of, putting something in the middle of it, but that's partly why it's so small, is because Bill O'Brien's philosophy is, well, with COVID-19 affecting all the workouts, and we should have had rookie minicamp by now, the rookies just absolutely are not going to be up to speed or be able to contribute. So it's a veterans off season. And as such, that's why you get a 5-man draft class. Well, if this is the last season of NFL football in the history of human civilization, good job. If it isn't, you just mess up. I mean, you draft for the future. You don't draft for now. And so having said that, if he can develop into a quality starting tackle, it does. I don't think anybody's going to take left tackle from Laramie Tunsil. No. But Coach Mike, offensive line coach Mike Devlin, what he likes to do is he likes to put the 5 best offensive linemen as a unit out there, not the best tackle, the best left tackle, the best left guard, the best center. It's the best 5-man combination out there. And if Heck can be a part of that, because, like I said, Titus Howard has versatility as a guard. You know, a lot of the draft experts, they just panned this pick. Oh, it was awful value. They said the same thing about Titus Howard last year.
Yeah,
So
no, that's I believe Hex. Matter of fact, out of the only 5 players in this draft, there weren't any players when you take a look at how they were graded at our lads that were considered either overdrafted or bargains. They pretty much where they were drafted. That's where they were supposed to get drafted according to our lads. So
yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
I don't buy that. I think Hex played a lot of football over his career. He played with a pretty decent football program, pretty good offense, and I think he's got a good career in the NFL. I think the worst. I think the especially like you mentioned, it's important to mention his father as a coach because that is important. That helps the growth of these kids a lot better than any. Just imagine anything that you do for a living and imagine your father did it before you. I mean, it's going to help you. It's a no-brainer. So
yeah.
I think the
It's in it.
worst possible situation is Heck becomes a backup swing tackle. That's worst
Yeah,
possible. I think he's an NFL player, and I think he's going to help out. And like you said, maybe he does not this year. Maybe by 2021, he's the starting right tackle. Possible.
exactly.
John Reed, Penn State. Small kid, but he ran a 4.4. So he's got speed. I guess he's supposed to be a slot corner. Is that what we're hearing?
Yes, yeah. He's going to be a slot corner, and he's someone that showed up at sophomore camp. Um, when Bill O'Brien was the coach at Penn
That's
State.
right. Yeah.
And he showed up there, and he was just impressed with his skill and just kept tabs on him. And that's how John Reed ended up with the Houston Texans, was just that last little bit of connection to Penn State that O'Brien had. I mean, you got to look. I mean, he was a sophomore, and I think it was 2013. So that was the last, season for Bill O'Brien at Penn State. And, there you go.
I mean, Reed could get some
Reed?
playing time, right?
Yeah, yeah. It's a crowded cornerback room because you have Bradley Roby, you have Keon Crossan, you have Lonnie Johnson, you have let's see, you have Lonnie Johnson, Keon Crossan,
Connolly, right?
Cornell Armstrong. I don't need to sit here and name all of them. The point is, it's like 7 cornerbacks, and but when they take someone in the 4th round like that, you don't expect to cut them or let them go to practice squad or something like that. Again, for Reed, the challenge is just going to be getting up to speed. But this is a kid that, for a recruiting barbecue at Penn State, was like, nah, I got to watch film. And he didn't come down for the I mean, I would have come down for barbecue.
Yeah.
And at least gone back upstairs. But no, he stayed and he watched film. That's how committed he is to his craft, which is why O'Brien kept tabs on it and wanted him.
Yeah, sure.
Is because you got to have guys like that in the room.
And you also want guys that have the same name on their jersey as your star defensive back, Justin Reed, so you can confuse the offense. But when you were naming all those guys, but Roby's really the only corner on the team after. I mean, he even struggled a couple years before last year, played well last year for the Texans. But really, when you're talking about guys that are cemented into jobs, he's the only one a corner. So even though there are a lot of bodies there at that position, it's going to be a battle in camp. So Reed has a chance to steal a job.
Yeah, he does. Again, the only issue is, how are these rookies going to get up to speed?
Yes, correct. Yep.
That's basically the only problem that's in the way for these guys.
Yeah. And then the wide receiver from Rhode Island, Isaiah Coulter, he was taken with the team's last pick. and Coulter played in a wide open offense at Rhode Island. And so let's see his stats. He had 72 receptions, over 1,000 yards receiving, and 8 touchdowns. Uh, and there's a lot of there's a lot of nice things to say about him in the guide, as far as his advanced route running, the fact that if he would have came back for another year, which most people expected him to do, that he could have been a day 2 pick. So this is a player that maybe Texans could have gotten a steal if he develops down the road. Probably a redshirt season this season, just because part of what you said, and also the step up in competition from Rhode Island, but maybe a player in 2021.
Well, hey, in 2018, they had an undrafted free agent by the name of Vincent Smith who caught a, I mean, it wasn't, I mean, it would have, I think it would have been game winning, but the Eagles kicked the field goal at the end. They won the game in week 16, but still, he was from Limestone College.
Yep.
Where, I mean, what, who names a college after, granite? Well, not granite, but, after geology.
Yeah, a rock.
So, yeah, but he didn't have stone hands at all.
No.
And it was a credit to the college scouting to find someone like that. And it's the same thing with Isaiah Coulter, although he was drafted in the 5th round as opposed to taking him. But with Isaiah Coulter, people wondered, why did you come out? No one even, do you even know what the Rhode Island mascot is?
Yes, because of their basketball team.
Yeah, the Rams. Yeah. I mean, that, like, Rhode Island, who comes? So it was because he had an excellent game against Virginia Tech. He had, I think, about 10 catches and over 100 yards receiving. And that showed him I can play against Div 1 talent. I think I can do this. I'm betting on myself. And he said at that moment, and this is like in October of the season, and he decided that's it. He's coming out. So, he does believe in himself, and he's in a no pressure situation.
Oh, yeah.
Because look at the receivers. It's Brandon Cooks. It's his job. It's Will Fuller. He's got something to prove. Can he stay healthy for more than 12 games in a season? Yeah. Randall Cobb, he's got the slot for you. Kenny Stills can fill in wherever. Kiki QT needs to prove that he can stay on the roster. DeAndre Carter's got the kicker. So there's no pressure for Coulter. He can just learn from the guys. He can study, and then he can take over when they decide that when they don't renew Will Fuller's contract at the end of the year.
And again, you don't know about Cooks. I mean, he seems to change teams every year, and then you get the injury situations with Fuller and QT. So, yeah, I think this is a real good spot for him. And again, it's like a redshirt season, and maybe he has a much bigger role in 2021.
Exactly. No pressure.
Yeah. And when we take a look at the free agents, there really weren't on offense. There were 3 guys. I guess the most notable was the one that was in the draft guide, the offensive guard Awagwu from TCU, Cordell Awagwu from TCU. So, and then you've got the 2 guys from SEC schools, Tyler Simmons, the wide receiver, and Scotty Phillips from Ole Miss at running back. And the defensive tackle, nicknamed the Big Z. It's always good when you got a name that's really hard to pronounce. He has a nickname. That's important. Azoya Alufaha from West Georgia. The Big Z, only 1 year of high school football, a Nigerian player. He's got the ability to be maybe a down the road, a 2-down run stuffing nose tackle. So any of those guys, has any one of them been singled out at all from the press, the team? Not really.
I mean, I think Big Z actually, and from West Georgia, which is interesting because you know about North Carolina and South Carolina and even coastal Carolina, well, West Georgia. I didn't know that was a state over there. But no, he's someone that. But again, so even if someone does have a chance at a good career or whatever, this is a tough entry point into the NFL to not have that rookie minicamp.
Yeah.
To not have those off-season workouts. So it's just going to be up to how well these guys can process film and apply it when they get their chance to practice. And
It's good that they have
just
the
hang
extra
on,
spots on the
believe in
practice
them.
squad.
Yeah, yeah.
That was
So
smart.
yeah,
What did they add? 4 spots, I think.
yeah. So for him, I think that he's got a chance, and I think Scotty Phillips has a shot too, just because of especially if he can learn to play special teams, because they lost Tywan Jones, he went back to the Buffalo Bills, and David Johnson's not going to be playing special teams like that, and same for Duke Johnson. You do have Karan Higdon, maybe he elevates to that point, but for Scotty Phillips, that's going to be his. How he would make the 53-man roster is taken over for Tywan Jones. And then Tyler Simmons, again, kind of like Isaiah Coulter, if he can just hang around, and develop, they would definitely have a weapon for Deshaun Watson.
So as we wrap up here, Mark, I get the feeling that the combination of the virus and Bill O'Brien's wheeling and dealing has made life for Houston Texans fans a little bit, I don't know, disappointing would be a
yeah
nice way of putting it. But
yes, because all of the decisions, it's like if you had a car wreck, let's say, and time just froze after that moment of impact, like you can't even move on from it. Okay, so they traded DeAndre Hopkins for David Johnson, and what's the offense going to look like? This is horrible.
Yeah.
Because of COVID-19, it's frozen.
Yeah.
You can't really move on from that. You're basically stuck in a snapshot.
It's like being on one of the NBA or NHL teams that's the 9th team in the standings that is on that they're on like a 5-game losing streak, and you're sitting there for the last few months waiting to get that ugly 5-game losing streak off, and knowing that at any moment they could cancel the regular season anyway and only go right to the playoffs. So that's not a bad analogy as well.
Yeah, and that's the thing is rookie minicamp should have been happening by now, and then at the end of this month you'd have OTAs, so you could get those trickled out reports of, oh well, Sean Watson and Brandon Cooks, they look like they're going to set the league on fire.
Yeah. Something to be positive. Yeah.
Yeah. So instead, you just stuck in Bill O'Brien traded DeAndre Hopkins, and it's all over. And David Johnson can't stay healthy for 16 seasons. And Brandon Cook had concussions last year, and the pass rush is still awful.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Sure. Like you can't get over any of that stuff. I don't know. I'm rambling.
That's okay. That's have you got the haircut appointment though? That's the important question.
I don't. My stylist, she didn't get back to me.
Wow, she's booked then, huh?
I know. Yeah, I hope that at least she's. Yes, I hope she's booking for hairstylist appointments and not booked in jail.
Oh well, we wouldn't want that either. I'm sure you have to have your. Do you have your mask? The Texans mask?
No, I don't have a Texans mask. No. But we'll work on. We'll work on it. But no, seriously, actually in Arkansas, they didn't shut down. They didn't have the stay-at-home orders like they did in Texas. So,
I haven't heard anything about Arkansas, to tell you the truth. So that's good.
Yeah. But I just really hope that everybody's staying safe and sane. And, I believe this is the one positive thing Bill O'Brien said that no Texans fan would disagree with him on or want him to be wrong about. There will be football.
I love it. Is that this year or next year?
This year.
All right.
Yeah.
Good. I believe that too.
We will play football again, he said.
Hey, I believe that too. And that's why I've been saying that anybody who has anything bad to say about the commissioner, Goodell, yeah, I don't think you should have anything bad to say about him anymore.
I know. I mean, I feel like with the draft, he did such a great job that I almost forgot all the reasons that I disliked him. And I love how he even was self-effacing and with the boos, and he asked people to boo him.
Yeah,
you know,
he was trying to. Yep, he was trying to do whatever he could to communicate with the fans. I don't know about that.
Yeah,
the whole setup, of course, we never want to see that again for the draft, but under the circumstances, everything worked out, and we have something to talk about, and we have something to get excited about. And football, yeah, like you said, no OTAs, no this, no that. But at this point in time, I still like Bill O'Brien. I feel very optimistic that I feel less optimistic about college because you have so many conferences and the schools and politics gets really involved with colleges. But with the NFL, it's a business, and I think they're going to do whatever they can to start this thing. And even if they started a little bit later, I don't see them canceling games. I think they've got that backup where they would hold the Super Bowl like the season a month later. I think that's like the worst case scenario for us fans.
Yeah, and that would actually be a boon for television. I don't have the sweeps for the 2021 sweep season memorized, but if I'm not mistaken, I think all of February is sweeps. So you would have I think no, it's like January, February, but still you'd have the last part of the season, all of the playoffs, and the Super Bowl during sweeps. I mean,
and they might decide to keep that in the future.
Yeah.
If it goes that well and it brings them that much more money to their sponsors, they might just say, hey, let's just do this every year.
Yeah, and correct me if I'm wrong, but wasn't 9/11 why we have February Super Bowls, why that stuck? I mean, isn't that
it's possible? I don't even remember that one.
Well, that was when the first February Super Bowl happened because week 2 was canceled, was postponed, and then they added everybody's bye week later, and then that's how Dave Campbell of the Cowboys was able to coach in mid-January, was because they were playing the Detroit Lions week 17, and it's like January 10th or something.
Okay.
But no, that was the first February Super Bowl was Rams Patriots in Super Bowl 36.
Well, let's no matter what, this is a sport that won't get interrupted. We got our fingers crossed. We look forward to it, and once we get the decision laid out for training camp and we get ready to start getting ready not only for camp but the preseason, we'll talk again. We'll preview the training camp for the Texans, and we'll do a whole lot more because once it starts, football fans are going to be going crazy. So we'll have our work cut out for us.
And I'll be clean shaven with a haircut by then.
Absolutely.
I guarantee.
You'll be on your second haircut by then.
Yeah.
All right, Mark. Thanks a lot. We'll talk to you soon.
All right. Thanks, Greg.
Take care.
Bye.